The idea for today's Subscriber Saturday came from Antonio Guarino. I hope I said your name right, but he said that for Subscriber Saturday, you should react to the MLB Network Top 100 Baseball Players list. So that's what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to go over the top 100 players that MLB Network put out there, give my thoughts and opinions on it, who's too high, who's too low, and I'm going to be frank about it. I'm not holding anything back. I'm going to be very honest whether it's players I like or dislike. And if you like this video, make sure to leave it a like. Comment down below, what are your thoughts on MLB Network top 100 players? Who are the guys you think were really left out? Who was really placed in the wrong spot? I really like to hear your guys' opinions on this list that MLB Network made. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. You can also comment what are the videos you would like to see for Subscriber Saturday. So let's talk about this list. My biggest critique about this list is just the fact that way too many times players were grouped. Whether it's because they play the same team or they play the same position, they would just put them back to back. And it happened constantly throughout the entire list. That's something that kind of bothered me because it made it look kind of lazy, that you're not actually looking at every single player and ranking them exactly. Just kind of like, these are some third basemen, let's do some pitchers, let's do some shortstops, let's do some White Sox, let's do some Mets. It's kind of just all over the place, so I don't really love that aspect of it. And just in general, the way they evaluate some things is very odd. So we're going to get into it right now. At number 100, they put Randy Arozarena. Now, Randy didn't play much of the regular season. We know that Tampa Bay is a team that really likes to switch up their lineups. Even in the playoffs, they would have a lot of different guys playing. But speaking of the playoffs, that is when Arozarena really burst onto the scene. It looks like he could be a young up-and-coming star. But because the only sample size we've seen is that postseason, you don't want to anoint him already. So the fact that he's going to start off at number 100, it's alright. At number 99, they put Trey Mancini. He missed all of 2020 with colon cancer. So Trey Mancini has been a good player in the past with Baltimore, and we don't know exactly where he is right now health-wise and how well he could still perform. So just putting him in the top 100 still as a nice courtesy, I'm perfectly good with that. Definitely pray that Trey Mancini could come back to the major leagues and be successful again. At number 98, DH JD Martinez from the Boston Red Sox. And JD, like just about almost every other hitter that's on this list, they had down seasons. And since JD had a down season, they put him at number 98. And I believe this was a bit harsh. For his career, Martinez has been so consistent. So the fact that just one bad year put him this far down, I thought that was pretty interesting. At number 97, another DH in Giancarlo Stanton for the New York Yankees. And Stanton, if he can stay healthy, he could be pretty good. But because he isn't healthy, he plays very little, so he doesn't have much of an impact on a team. At number 96, Tyler Glasnow. He finished the year with a 4.01 ERA, and in the playoffs, he had some pretty good starts, and he had some not so good starts. So he is a good pitcher, but he isn't the best of the best. At number 95, Josh Hader, reliever from the Milwaukee Brewers. He had a 3.79 ERA, and that's a down year for him. And when it comes to down years, it was much more common this season from the hitters, not so much the pitchers. So the fact that a reliever of Josh Hader's caliber, who has been arguably one of the best relievers in all of baseball, would have a year like this, that definitely could be a concern going forward. At number 94, center fielder Luis Robert from the Chicago White Sox. And Robert burst onto the scene as a rookie. He hit plenty of home runs. His average wasn't great, but his defense is very impressive. And to go along with how good his defense is, that's also a credit to the kind of speed he has. He's a very exciting player, and I'm curious to see what the future holds for Robert. At number 93, another young outfielder, Kyle Lewis from the Seattle Mariners. And like Robert, he showed some good power. Not the greatest batting average, but these guys still are young, so you imagine that their batting averages could go up as they get older. Number 92, we see another outfielder here in Austin Meadows from the Tampa Bay Rays. Another guy who just had a down year. At number 91, another outfielder, Byron Buxton from the Minnesota Twins. Very good defensive center fielder who also hit 13 home runs. So Buxton had a nice year. He's a very solid player, so he deserves to be a top 100 player. At number 90, Yoan Moncada from the Chicago White Sox, who also had a down year. I mean, you're going to hear that a lot, but they just did. When you look at the numbers, that's not what Moncada is supposed to be. Moncada is better than that. So he definitely just wasn't himself this season. At number 89, Brandon Nimmo of the New York Mets, who actually had a good year. He didn't have a down year. If anything, this was one of Brandon Nimmo's better seasons. And the reason why is because he had the 280 average. We know that every single year, Brandon Nimmo could be a top echelon on base percentage guy. But when it comes to batting average, that usually isn't his thing. The fact that he was able to hit 280, albeit in a short season, was a good sign for Nimmo going forward. Number 88, another outfielder, Alex Verdugo from the Boston Red Sox, who had a 308 average. And we know Verdugo has a strong arm. He might play center field for Boston this year if they are unable to re-sign Jackie Bradley Jr. And he still is very young, so we'll see how his ranking changes as he gets older. At number 87, Joey Gallo from the Texas Rangers, another outfielder, a guy who had a 180 average. Now, Joey Gallo is not going to hit 300. He's much more of a power hitter. He only hit 10 home runs, but the 180 average, that's down even for someone like him. Number 86, Sonny Gray with a 3.70 ERA. As I've said before, Sonny Gray has improved ever since he's come to Cincinnati compared to the Yankees. Changed his pitches up, and he's pitched well. Right after him, they put another Cincinnati Reds starting pitcher, Luis Castillo, with his 3.21 ERA. Personally, I believe there is a pretty big gap between Castillo and Sonny Gray. I don't look at them as neck and neck like this. So that's one of those examples of, I think they're just being lazy, putting two guys from the Reds that play the same position right next to each other. At number 84, another starting pitcher, Kyle Hendricks, who had a 2.88 ERA. Hendricks has been very consistent, and he's just been a good pitcher, so he deserves to be on this list, and that's a pretty good ranking for him. Number 83, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who had a 3.08 average, and Gurriel is still very young, so he definitely could be a guy that goes higher on this list as his career progresses with the Blue Jays. At number 82, Salvador Perez, catcher from the Kansas City Royals, 3.33 average, 11 home runs. We know what Perez could do defensively, so it was good to see him be on the top 100 list because he is a very good player. At number 81, they had Wilson Contreras, another catcher, and Contreras had a 2.43 average, so I don't know why, with Contreras having the down year, he was still ranked ahead of Salvador Perez, who had a very good year. Both of them have been good catchers for their career, so I just think that Perez should have been above Contreras. At number 80, Blake Snell with the 3.24 ERA with Tampa, now with the Padres, and we know he had some good moments in the postseason. Personally, I believe they did not do a justice to Blake Snell. I believe he is better than number 80, but that's just me. At number 79, Kenta Maeda, who had a 2.70 ERA, definitely had a very good year for Minnesota, and he's just been pretty good lately. Number 78, Gio Urshela from the New York Yankees, who had a 2.98 average. Obviously, we know what Urshela could do with the glove, so he has been a pretty good player. Is he number 78? I don't know. I mean, Urshela is good, but for some reason when I watch him, I don't say that's a top 80 player in baseball, but that's just me personally. Number 77, Whit Merrifield, who had a 2.82 average with the Kansas City Royals, is a guy that plays all over the place, is extremely durable, has not missed a single game in the previous 2 seasons, and he has some speed as well. Whit Merrifield is just an all-around very solid player. At number 76, Charlie Blackmon, outfield with the Colorado Rockies, 3.03 average, only 6 home runs. That's a bit concerning for me when you're a guy that is there for your offense and you're playing in Coors Field. So we don't know exactly how good Charlie Blackmon is because he has been on the Rockies his whole career, but the fact that his power was down in 2020, that's not a good sign going forward. At number 75, they put Lance Lynn with a 3.32 ERA in 2020. Honestly, I don't think Lance Lynn deserves to be higher than Blake Snell. I don't think he deserves to be higher than Maeda. I feel like he's maybe even Castillo might be better than Lance Lynn. I know Lynn is good, but when we look at his numbers, he isn't that much better than Blake Snell and some of these other guys. So I think Lance Lynn is too high on this list. Number 74, they put Dinelson Lamet. And Lamet, I mean, you want to talk about short sample size. It's been a very short sample size for Lamet because he still is very young, and he didn't pitch the whole year in 2020, and 2020 was a short year anyway. So they definitely put a lot of stock into how good Lamet was in 2020. And we'll see. I mean, if he could pitch like that again, then yes, he definitely is one of the better pitchers in the league. At number 73, they put Marcus Semien, a guy who, like a lot of the hitters, had a down year. And Semien's ranking went down a ton from where he was in the 2019 list. At number 72, they put Ozzie Albies with a 2.71 average and 6 home runs, only 29 games, so Albies missed some times, but we know that he could do just about everything as a very solid player. Now, this is one I really don't understand. At number 71, they put Cavan Biggio from the Toronto Blue Jays with his 2.50 average and 8 home runs. Now, with Biggio, he is still very, very young and probably is going to have a great career, but he hasn't done it yet. So why are you saying that already Cavan Biggio is better than Blake Snell? He's better than Salvador Perez. He's better than some of these other players already when he only had a 2.50 average and 8 home runs. That doesn't make sense to me. If you're trying to project at what Biggio could be, then all right, I can understand that. But based off what he did, Biggio is not better than some of these other players. At number 70, Max Fried. He went 7-0 last year with a 2.25 ERA. Looked very good in the playoffs. And as a Met fan, someone I am not looking forward to facing multiple times during the course of the season. At number 69, they put Lucas Giolito with his 3.48 ERA. Personally, I don't think Giolito is better than Max Fried. I don't think Giolito is better than Blake Snell and Kenta Maeda. So I think Giolito is too high on this list. Yes, he threw a no-hitter in 2020. It was not against a great team, so I just don't think that Giolito is better than some of these other pitchers. At number 68, Jack Flaherty. He had a down year with a 4.91 ERA with the Cardinals, but Flaherty had a down year, so why is it with some of these other guys who had down years? They didn't punish Flaherty for having a down year like they did with some of these other players, so I just find that pretty fascinating. At number 67, Dom Smith, first baseman / left fielder for the New York Mets. He had a 3.16 average, and Dom definitely looked very good last year. I'm excited to see what he he could do in the future. So, I mean, Dom Smith, he's a good hitter, so he deserves to be on this list. At number 66, his teammate, another Mets first baseman, Pete Alonso. Alonso had a .231 average and 16 home runs, and people forget that with 16 home runs in such a short season, Alonso was on pace to hit over 40 home runs, even in a down year. So that shows you the kind of power that Alonso has. Now, we look at these guys. Are they neck and neck? No, they're not. Dom Smith is a better fielder. Dom Smith gets on base more. Smith hits for a much better average. Alonso obviously gives you more power. I don't think that necessarily just because Alonso's a better power hitter than Dom, he's a better player. And I don't think they're this neck and neck like the way they list them. So again, I think that was kind of lazy on their part. Up next, third baseman Rafael Devers from the Boston Red Sox at number 65 with a .263 average. Devers had a down year. He is a very good hitter. He still is really young, so I'm sure that Devers is probably going to go back up next year. At number 64, another young infielder, Gleyber Torres, who had a .243 average in 42 games. Gleyber, it was a down year for him. He missed some time. Definitely not nearly as good as a shortstop as he is at second base. At number 63, third baseman Eugenio Suarez from the Cincinnati Reds. He had a .202 average and 15 home runs. So similar to Alonso, Suarez was on pace to hit over 40 home runs again. That just shows you how prolific of a power hitter he is. At number 62, Chris Bryant with a .206 average, only 5 home runs in 34 games. So Chris Bryant missed some time. He's kind of been on the decline, so he is someone that you do have some concern about. But the Mets could use the upgrade at third base, but we'll talk about that another time. At number 61, Chris Bryant's teammate, Javi Baez, who had a .203 average. And Baez had a down year. Don't get me wrong. But Baez got punished so severely compared to some other top-tier players, especially in the National League, that were still top 10 players, even though they had down years as well. So I think it was unfair to put Baez so far down just for having a bad year offensively. Baez still gives you really good defense, and he gives you good speed and heads-up plays. So I think that putting Baez at 61 was way too low, even though he had a down year. At number 60, they put Steven Strasburg, who only pitched 5 innings because he dealt with some injuries. And Strasburg is kind of getting up there in age, so I'm curious to see how much of an effect these injuries have on Strasburg and how well he is going to age. At number 59, they put Milwaukee's Brewers reliever Devin Williams, who had an .033 ERA in 2020. He had that ERA because he only gave up 1 run in 27 innings. So Williams had a great 2020. Obviously, it was as a reliever in a short season against the National League Central. So, in a full season, we'll be able to get a much better indicator of just how good Devin Williams is. At number 58, another reliever, Liam Hendriks, who is now with the Chicago White Sox, but with the Oakland A's, had a .178 ERA. I think Hendriks should be a little higher than this because he was also dominant the year before. So, he showed you that big-time consistency, which is hard to find, especially in 2020, and is even harder to find with relief pitching. At number 57, Bo Bichette. He had a .301 average in 29 games. Bichette missed a lot of time, but plenty of other guys on this list had 300 averages. Again, maybe like Biggio, they're trying to project that Bichette is going to be very good, but why didn't you do the same thing for Alex Verdugo? So I think that Bichette should not be this much higher than Verdugo, in my personal opinion. At number 56, Houston Astros shortstop Carlos Correa. He had a .264 average. It was a bit of a down year for him, but at least he was hitting some home runs in the playoffs compared to his teammate, who was number 55 on the list, Jose Altuve, who had a .219 average. And now, I'll tell you what, the microscope is on Altuve. We have to see just how good he is after the whole cheating scandal. If Altuve continues to put up seasons like this, it will show that Altuve's success was from the cheating. So, he's someone we really have got to keep an eye on. At number 54, Eloy Jimenez with the Chicago White Sox. He had a .296 average and hit 14 home runs. He was also really good in his rookie season. So, Eloy Jimenez, back-to-back really solid years offensively. Still is very young, so I'm excited to see what he could do with Chicago for the rest of his career. At number 53, Brandon Lau from the Tampa Bay Rays. He had a .269 average with 14 home runs. And Brandon Lau, I mean, he got off to a really strong start in the beginning of the season, but come playoff time, this dude was ice cold. I mean, you couldn't get a hit out of him. You would get a big hit, you would get a big home run, a big extra base hit, but after that, you couldn't find Brandon Lau. So I did not like the inconsistencies, especially when it mattered most. At number 52, Aaron Nola from the Philadelphia Phillies. He had a .328 average, and Nola has been a pretty consistently good pitcher, so I think that this is a pretty fair rating for him. At number 51, Mike Yastrzemski, .297 average, 10 home runs. I have to be honest with you, that's not an amazing season. I mean, there are other hitters on this list lower than Yastrzemski that had a .300 average. Maybe they're trying to do again with the projecting because Yaz is very young. At number 50, Will Smith from the Los Angeles Dodgers. He had a .289 average, so he definitely could give you good offense offense from the catcher position, but the guy right after him, Yasmani Grandal, at number 49, who some consider as one of the very best catchers in all of baseball. Yes, he did have a down year offensively, only having the 230 average, still hit 8 home runs, and we know that Grandal can be a very good defensive catcher. So I don't think that him and Will Smith are neck and neck like that. I think that Will Smith is too high on this list. He should not be right next to Grandal. At number 48, Ketel Marte, 287 average, 2 home runs in 45 games. That's not going to get it done. That is not top 50 player material. And again, if you're going to punish somebody like Javi Baez and these other guys for having down years, you got to do the same for Ketel Marte. You can't say that that kind of performance means that you're automatically going to be a top 50 player. It doesn't work like that. At number 47, third baseman Josh Donaldson from the Minnesota Twins. He had a 222 average and 6 home runs. He only played in 28 games. So Donaldson, the injury bug came back after he was finally healthy with Atlanta, signs the big deal in Minnesota. First year gets injured. He's getting up there in age, so he's going to be interesting to follow. At number 46, another third baseman, Justin Turner with the Los Angeles Dodgers. He had a 307 average, 4 home runs in 42 games. Justin Turner could flat out hit the ball. He's done it every single year since he's been with the Dodgers, and looks like he's going to continue to hit. At number 45, another Dodger, Max Muncy. He had a 192 average with 12 home runs, but he did hit very well in the postseason. He could play a few different positions. He gives you good power. I mean, top 45, better than some guys on his list. I don't know. At number 44, first baseman Matt Olson from the Oakland Athletics. He had a 195 average, but still hit 14 home runs, so the power was there. Olsen gives you good defense at first base, so, I mean, he deserves to be a top 50 player. At number 43, another first baseman, Anthony Rizzo from the Chicago Cubs. He had a 222 average with 11 home runs. Yes, Rizzo's power was there with the 11 homers, but he wasn't that much better than Javi Baez. Again, Baez was way too low. Anthony Rizzo is his teammate. He's not 20 players better than Javi Baez. He just isn't. At number 42, Nelson Cruz, who had a 303 average with 16 home runs, even at his advanced age. This guy can still flat out hit the ball, so he definitely deserves to be on this list. At number 41, Luke Voigt. He had a 277 average, hit 22 home runs during the course of a very short regular season, so the power was there. But in the playoffs, Luke Voigt was all nothing. He had a home run here or there, but other than that, you couldn't get a hit out of him. At number 40, they put Walker Buehler. He had a 3.44 ERA, but he was very good in the postseason this year, and it's just a young pitcher that a lot of people believe is going to be really, really good, so I can understand him being right here on this list. At number 39, another starting pitcher, Hyun-Jun Ryu of the Toronto Blue Jays. He had a 2.69 ERA. In the past few years, Ryu has been very, very good, so he deserves a spot right there. At number 38, Clayton Kershaw. He had a 2.16 ERA. Playoffs was kind of inconsistent. For the most part, it was pretty good, but Kershaw was ranked 61 in 2019. I went crazy over that. I was like, no way, Kershaw's so much better than this. How could they do this? It's good to see that they finally came to their senses and gave Kershaw a much more respectable rank. At number 37, they have Marcell Ozuna, who had a crazy year with the Braves, 338 average, 18 home runs. I'm scared to see what he's going to do with the Braves again. Not looking forward to facing him. At number 36, Michael Brantley, Mr. 300. Now, he had exactly 300 average in 2020, and he hit well in the playoffs, and he's just a guy that every single year hits 300. So Michael Brantley, he's very consistent, deserves to be a top 100 player. Number 35, talking about batting average, Jeff McNeil. He had a 311 average, only hit 4 home runs. I'm pretty sure all 4 of them came like in back-to-back-to-back days, all in 1 week. McNeil's a really good hitter. He hits for a high average, has some power, will play good defense at second base. He just puts the ball in play. It's just plays multiple positions. McNeil's just a really good all-around player. At number 34, his teammate, Michael Conforto, who had a 322 average and 9 home runs. This was a big season for Conforto because he finally shortened up his swing. That led to him having that increased batting average. He plays good defense in right field, but I don't know if him and McNeil are exactly neck and neck. I mean, they're both very good, but I think that some other players might be better or worse than them. At number 33, JT Realmuto, catcher from the Philadelphia Phillies, 266 average and 11 home runs, so definitely some good power from JT. Already broke his thumb. We'll see how this new contract works out with Philadelphia. At number 32, Paul Goldschmidt, first baseman from the St. Louis Cardinals. He had a 304 average, only 6 home runs, but Goldschmidt is a consistent player. He's good on defense. He can hit the ball. He's just a very good player. At number 31, they put Jose Abreu, who was the American League MVP. He had a 317 average and 19 home runs. Abreu was very consistent. He was important to the White Sox success. At number 30, they have Yu Darvish, starting pitcher with the Cubs, now with the Padres. He had a 201 ERA. It was a short season against the National League Central. And right after him is Trevor Bauer, starting pitcher who was with the Reds, now with the Dodgers. Short season against the National League Central. He had a 173 ERA, and a lot of people don't buy into that. So we'll see how they do in the National League West in a full season. At number 28, Max Scherzer, who had a down year at the 3.74 ERA, but Scherzer's been so good in years past that they felt that they couldn't put him too far down, so I can understand what they were thinking, still having Scherzer as a pretty high up there player. At number 27, Tim Anderson. He had a 3.22 average with 10 home runs. He could swipe some bases. He won the batting title the year before, so Tim Anderson is just a really good all-around player and definitely is the engine that gets the White Sox going. At number 26, another shortstop, Trey Turner from the Washington Nationals. He had a 3.35 average and 12 home runs. As Met fans, we know what he could do on the bases. Very scary player that I hate going up against. At number 25, Xander Bogaerts from the Boston Red Sox. He had a 300 average, 11 home runs. I mean, maybe they're trying to project the future, but I don't think that Bogaerts is that much better than some of the other players on this list. That's just me personally. At number 24, another shortstop, Corey Seager from the Los Angeles Dodgers. He had a 307 average during the regular season with 15 home runs, and he was tremendous in the postseason, hitting home run after home run after home run. So he definitely is deserving of being a top 25 player. At number 23, Matt Chapman, third baseman from the Oakland Athletics. He had a 2.32 average and 10 home runs. Obviously, we know that Chapman is a sensational defender, so that is why he is still up there as a top 25 player in baseball, even with the down year offensively compared to somebody like Javi Baez, who got very disrespected. At number 22, Bryce Harper, right fielder from the Philadelphia Phillies. 268 average, 13 home runs. Bryce Harper can steal some bases, has a pretty strong arm out there in right field. It's just an all-around pretty good player. At number 21, Aaron Judge, right fielder for the New York Yankees. 257 average, 9 home runs in only 28 games. Aaron Judge is a very good player, but how many games are you going to get out of him? That's what it comes down to with Judge. Will he be healthy? Number 20, George Springer, center fielder, now with the Toronto Blue Jays. 265 average, 14 home runs. Springer also did really well in the postseason. That has been the story of Springer's career. I mean, every postseason he does very well when it comes to power. So it was good to see him do it again. Unfortunately, he will not be doing it with the Mets, but top 20, that's a pretty nice ranking for Springer. At number 19, third baseman from the Cleveland Indians, Jose Ramirez. He hit a 292 average with 17 home runs. Jose Ramirez is a scary hitter. I mean, he can get red hot and becomes very hard to get out. At number 18, Manny Machado, third baseman from the San Diego Padres. He had a 304 batting average with 16 home runs. Last year, they ranked Machado at 59, and I went berserk when that happened. I was like, Machado is still very good. How could you say all these players are better than Machado? No way. This is a much more reasonable ranking for Machado. At number 17, another third baseman, this time Alex Bregman from the Houston Astros, who had a 242 average with 6 home runs in 42 games. Yes, Bregman missed some time, but he was also coming off of a cheating scandal. And I think that a guy who, after the cheating scandal is revealed, has a worse year than Machado and Jose Ramirez does not deserve to be ranked ahead of them, especially with what Machado could do defensively. So I just think that there is no way you can rank Bregman over Machado. You just can't do it right now. At number 16, Trevor Story, shortstop from the Colorado Rockies. He had a 289 average, 11 home runs. Story is a good hitter, but he does play in Coors Field, so that always would be a concern for me of how well I would rank him. At number 15, shortstop Francisco Lindor, now a New York Met, had a 258 average with 8 home runs. It was a down year for Lindor, but as we're going to get to these top 15 players, plenty of them had down years, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. At number 14, DJ LeMahieu, second baseman for the New York Yankees. He had a 364 average and hit 10 home runs. LeMahieu is Mr. Consistency, hits the ball all over the place. He always hits the ball. He plays multiple positions. He's out there every day. He performs in the postseason. LeMahieu is just a great, great player. At number 13, Nolan Arenado, third baseman, now of the St. Louis Cardinals. 253 average, 8 home runs. Very similar season to Francisco Lindor, but I mean, Nolan Arenado is still a really good third baseman, and we'll see just how good of a hitter he is now being away from Coors Field 24/7. Number 12, Shane Bieber from the Cleveland Indians. He had a 163 ERA. He won the Triple Crown all in a short season, but he still played the Central. So why is Shane Bieber ranked so much higher than Bauer and Yu Darvish? At number 11, Garrett Cole from the New York Yankees. He had a 284 ERA. He was pretty good in the postseason, and Garrett Cole is just a really good pitcher, so he's deserving to be up there. Now let's get to the top 10. They started off with Cody Bellinger, center fielder from the Los Angeles Dodgers. He had a 239 average, but he still hit 12 home runs and made a lot of nice defensive plays in the playoffs, in the World Series in center field, was robbing home runs, was hitting big home runs. And the same goes for the guy who was ranked number 9, Christian Yelich. He had a 205 average, still hit 12 home runs, but they still consider him a top 10 player. So how come when Yelich had such a bad year, he's still a top 10 player, but Baez gets destroyed, JD Martinez gets destroyed, and Francisco Lindor, all these other guys, they go way down, but somebody like Christian Yelich still gets to be top 10, even though he doesn't give you the defense of a Francisco Lindor or a Javi Baez. At number 8, Anthony Rendon, who had a 286 average and 9 home runs. To me, I don't think Rendon is better than Arenado. I don't think Rendon's better than Lindor. Rendon is a nice player. He's not top 10. He's not better than Bellinger and some of these other guys. That's just crazy. At number 7, Ronald Acuna Jr., outfielder for the Atlanta Braves. He had a 250 average, 14 home runs. We know he can steal bases. He's a really, really good player. Not a guy I look forward to facing. At number 6, Fernando Tatis Jr. He had a 277 average, 17 home runs. He can steal bases. He's a very exciting, fun player to watch. Very popular. So we'll see if he can live up to this huge mega deal that he just got from San Diego. At number 5, Juan freaking Soto. 351 average, 13 home runs. Guy is just cracked at the plate. I hate facing him. He is so good offensively. He's just a tough out. He is so hard to get out. His discipline and vision, everyone says, but for his age, is just unreal. I mean, players that young should not be able to lay off the pitches that he does. At number 4, Freddie Freeman, first baseman from the Braves. He won the MVP in 2020. He had a 341 average, 13 home runs. Freddie Freeman could just flat out hit the ball. He's really, really good. He's consistent, and I hate facing him as well. At number 3, Jacob Cy-Grom DeGrom from the New York Mets. He had a 2.38 ERA, and he pitched in the NL East where he faced Juan Soto, faced Freddie Freeman, Trey Turner, Ronald Acuna Jr., Marcell Ozuna, all these other guys. He didn't play in the National League Central with those guys that are not nearly as good hitters. So DeGrom is still the best pitcher in baseball, and even MLB Network recognized that with some of their crazy rankings. At number 2, Mookie Betts. He had a 292 average, hit 16 home runs, was outstanding in the postseason, made so many big plays, whether it was on offense, whether it was on the bases, whether it was with catches, with throws. Mookie Betts does it all. There's not a single thing that Mookie Betts cannot do. So that is why he is very deserving of being a top 3 player in baseball. And number 1, no surprise, automatic, they put in Mike Trout. And Trout had a 281 average, had 17 home runs. You look at the numbers, Mookie Betts was right there with him. I think Mookie Betts might be able to give you some better defense. He just gives you a lot of clutch plays, and it's tough to fully evaluate them because we have not seen Trout in the postseason. The Angels can't get him there. But when Mookie Betts is in the postseason, whether it's with the Red Sox or the Dodgers, he goes to a next level and wins you championships. I don't know if Trout could do that yet because he hasn't got to the postseason. So for me, I kind of would put Mookie ahead of him, but I'm just a huge Mookie fan, so maybe that's a personal bias. But still, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's long, but it was 100 players. I mean, what am I going to just say? Just go through the list and just say their names? No, I want to talk about them. I want to be frank about it, give my take on it. So, again, let me know your guys' take on it. And until the next one, be safe, be smart, be healthy, and let's go Mets.